Welcome to the third episode of the Tessa Talks To podcast, where we've been discussing what music means to you. This is the final episode of the first series, where we focused on health and recovery and the role that music has played in the recovery for our guests. Today I'm here with Ian Mok, and thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Ian's, over the last year and a half, been on an incredible journey after he suffered from concussion, and so would you like to tell us a little bit about it?
So I was playing football, and it was just a five-a-side, shouldn't have been anything stressful whatsoever, and then someone essentially headbutted me the side of the head behind my left ear, and wasn't feeling very good that day, and I took a taxi home because I couldn't actually be on the tube, and the next morning realised I couldn't actually walk or put a sentence together or talk. So went to the GP, and the GP goes, I know you're not like this normally. So they immediately stuck me in a taxi to go to the emergency room. They thought I had a brain hemorrhage, so I did a bunch of scans. Thankfully, didn't actually need any kind of major ops from them. They basically said, you just have a really bad concussion. It'll take time. We're not quite sure how long it'll take, but here we are, so yeah.
And how that moment when you realised that it wasn't going to be as quick a recovery as you had thought, how did the road to recovery look? How did you feel? Because that moment must have just been crippling. Yeah,
I think first of all there's the frustration with any injury, and also the double frustration of the fact you can't actually communicate properly, and you can't look at screens, you can't read because that's too much for your brain to handle. So all these kind of basic things which you take for granted generally, you just can't do. So, but I've actually had concussion before playing sport for university, so I knew that if I'd come back from that before, then it was okay. It's just that this time is particularly debilitating, in fact I couldn't actually do much, so I could only just sit. So that's when I listened to a lot of music, and that just helped in general. That's really all I could do at that point in time.
So obviously at this point you're off work, but music's beginning to play more of a role again. Yeah. But you were previously a professional cellist. So tell us, how did music come back into your life?
Yeah, professional is a very kind way to put it. I just love playing. As a kid, I've been playing cello since I was 4, and then I sang with St. Margaret's, Westminster Abbey, and all that, and sang a lot of places. So music played a massive part of my life. And then somewhere along the way, I went into law, consulting, and kind of banking. And the music fell by the wayside, but it was something that's always meant so much to me. So I think as part of my recovery, the good thing was I could still listen to music. The bad thing was I couldn't read, I couldn't look at screens, I couldn't do anything motor related, so I couldn't go for a walk, I couldn't sit up for too long. So music was the only thing I had. So interesting, it was like me going back to like what I've always loved doing, to listen to music and all that kind of thing. So I remember I had a concussion a long time ago playing football for university. Rugby for university, and I couldn't remember what day it was, what my phone number was, what university I went to, and it was only in the ambulance to the hospital that I remembered I could play the Alga cello concerto. I was like, I'm a cellist, so I went through like the first movement, like right, I can still play, and I conked out again. Yeah.
Through muscle memory.
So muscle memory. So I was like, okay, right, here we go, nice little chords and all the big run later, wow. And it was only like, okay, I remember that stuff. So music was my anchor. And again, it proved to be the case in this time of concussion as well, where I had that to come back to.
So that's music, obviously very strong, like you say, a strong anchor, you've got a strong sense of rootedness in music.
Yeah.
What role did music play as a child so that you had that sense of strength from it? How do you describe the role that music played when you were younger?
Music allowed me to express myself, how I really felt, how I wanted to be, how I hoped to be, and also gave me that safe space from a lot of things. So, when you're up on stage and you're playing or you're singing, it's you like putting your soul out to the universe. Like, this is how I feel, this is how I see the piece, and you can bring people joy through it, you can move people through it as well, but also it gives you that sense of comfort, because here I am, here's something I can do well, and I can just be myself. So for me it was a safe space, always has been, but also a chance just to reach out to other people and communicate. So that's what it's always meant to me as a kid.
And that's what you came back to when you couldn't communicate sort of physically.
Right.
Music was therefore again a safe space, was it, for you to retreat to and be protected from? Because you probably, I imagine, having gone through what you what you went through, you needed an armour of protection
That's
around
right.
you, sort of emotionally and
Yeah.
physically.
I think armour is a wonderful way to put it, because I think for me it was, I couldn't do much but listen for music, and then coming back to work, for example, work were very good about everything, and it's things when, like, I think going to the canteen, it was way too loud, and I'd get overrun, or going to a meeting and I just couldn't focus or concentrate, or looking at the screen I couldn't write. It took me 20 minutes to write a sentence for an email.
Gosh.
But putting the music in allowed me to, like, block everything else out and be able to allow me to control my own environment, so I wasn't overwhelmed. I didn't feel as exhausted because I had my music. I could listen to something that I want to, and I could change the mood, change the tune with the music. And then work also very kindly allowed me to work from home some days. So I'd come home on the days and just be like, okay, now I can just rest, either be in quiet or listen to something on the speaker and just create my own space, and same space and environment. So with a confidence, eventually I could come back out and be like, okay, here we are.
Presumably this is about a year into your recovery though, going back to work, back into the bank.
Yeah. So I tried, I tried soon after concussion, and I walked into 2 walls and one person from my boss, and they very kindly said, go home, take it easy. So work were very good. I was off for about 3 months or so, and I came back in the new year, and then slowly like ramped up my hours and kind of days, but a lot of time working from home as well. So it's been very gradually, and with concussions you never know how long it'll take, but it's one of those things where music was always there to kind of help me along every step of the way, even when there were setbacks.
Yeah.
And I remember there were also times when sound played a big important part, where when I was learning how to walk again, they had me walking in a straight line, and then they would say, right, odd numbers, turn left, even numbers, turn right, but 5, go right, and 8 means go left.
I don't think I could do that now. let alone-
No, so you can imagine, like, where there was reduced, like, cognitive functions, and I'm walking and then be like, right, 3, and I'd stand there, and it was hard enough to walk in a straight line with 3. What did 3 mean? Oh, it means go left. So it was like kind of connecting, you know, my oral functions again with, like, my motor functions and cognitive skills again, and that was huge.
Which is of course what music does, because music affects the whole brain.
It does, yeah.
And connects both sides of the brain.
That's right, yeah.
Together.
Yeah.
So Ian, for people who might be in a similar position, who might have just had a terrible accident and be on the road to recovery, what advice would you give them, whether they're musical or not, but perhaps bringing music into their recovery
Sure.
anyway?
I think, first of all, I'd say be patient, be kind to yourself, don't use your previous functions or skills or abilities to beat yourself over the head with. The goal in itself is the process of coming back. That's the reward. Every day you come back a little bit more to who you are. And I think with music, the wonderful thing is that it gives you that, for me, ever since I was a kid, it allowed me the chance to express myself. It allowed me, when everything else was failing, to actually still kind of feel like I was being me. Somewhere in there, in the jumble of words and the nausea and the dizziness and everything, it was still me. So
To reconnect with yourself.
absolutely,
as well,
absolutely. So I think one of the things that helped was, after a few months, when sitting up straight didn't cause me to be, like, ill, playing the cello again a little bit. I sound terrible, but, like, playing a little bit, like, this is what I can do, this is something that resonates with me, and that helps. And then also I know that with other people, I think singing has really helped a lot. So to go, and it depends obviously your level of sensitivity with sound, but, like, singing really helps. You meet other people, you speak to other people, that social aspect of it. Because one of the hard things about recovery is that sometimes you feel very alone. You feel like you're in it by yourself, you've just got the doctors doing it, you've got family and everyone's supporting you, be like, you know, you can do it, you can come back. But then also when you're back with other people singing, doing something for yourself, and with music it's generally quite joyful when you sing or you play, then I think that's a really good way to keep the positive attitude up.
And be
help.
part of a community.
Exactly,
essentially.
exactly.
And with social prescribing beginning to be rolled out, for example, GPs referring mothers with postnatal depression to join singing groups, what would your advice be for people? Because I think when you're emotionally very vulnerable, it can be overwhelming to suddenly join a community of singing. It's a very vulnerable activity to do.
I would say that my advice, for what it's worth, and others have gone through much worse, I think with any illness, I think the hardest part is being alone. And if you're lucky to have, you know, a caring partner or a family, then that helps a long way. But the good thing about singing or being a choir is that you are not alone. You're with a bunch of people who everyone's pulling together the same goal, and no one's judging you. I think that's where some people's fear comes from when they sing in groups or play in groups. The fear of being judged. It's like, oh, I'm not good enough, or like, they might be better than me, or like, why is it they don't like me? Or like, the thing is, like, with that, forget that, because you're really there for you. You do music for you and to bring joy, really. So if you're there and you're singing, you're having fun, that's what it's really about anyway, to have fun, to be part of that. So some people might be shocked, being like, oh gosh, there's a big choir, I don't know what to do, and the word choir might send them to, like, you know, have the memories of being like in a school somewhere, like I had to go to assembly and sing.
Big fear.
Exactly, massive fear. But the thing is, actually, no, the whole point is that you can express yourself. It gives you a place to express yourself, an environment where everyone's supportive of that. You know, if everyone's there to have fun, then go and do it. And then also, I think it's also having confidence in your ability as well. So if you've got no ability, that's fine too. Just have confidence in yourself and the fact that other people will be there to encourage you.
I want you to do your best and just to be there as you wish to be.
Exactly.
Really.
And I think that's what music is about, to express yourself, to be the best you can be, to give yourself every chance, to meet people, to make new connections, and just to live a much happier, kind of healthier life that is with others, and it's all positive. So yeah.
And so Ian, what's the role of music going to be for you in the future? Where do you see music fitting into your life going forward?
Yeah, no, I think it's one of those things when music taught me during this whole period that I had lost touch with an old friend, let's put it that way, and that I really missed that old friend, and it was time. So for me, it's like, well, I've been lucky enough to be asked to sing in a couple of choirs. I don't know why, because I was told I sound like a drain pipe, but I'd like to join a couple of choirs and sing again. Cello practice, that needs to happen. Again, with me, the issue was, like, I used to remember what I used to sound like and who I used to play with and everything. I used to beat that myself over the head with it, being
winning
like,
the competitions.
Exactly, winning things, playing overseas. But then it's really, as I was saying, when I realised, it's actually the joys in the process itself. You know, forget the yardstick of where it used to be. That doesn't help anyone whatsoever. The simple joy of sitting down now, playing your 20 minutes, half an hour, and like just the joy of improving, the joy of finding that joy again, being able to express yourself. So I will be taking part in more music, I'll be singing, I'll be practicing again, and yeah, no, the debts I owe to music I can't repay, but I hope to in some way, so there we are.
Oh, I really look forward to hearing you, maybe playing with you in a concert in the future.
Hopefully, if you'll have me, but
yeah,
yes.
of course. Thank you for listening to the third episode of the Tessa Talks To podcast. In this series, we've been focusing on health and the road to recovery and the role that music has played in our guest's journey. Today I've been speaking to Ian Mok, who has spoken very openly and generously about his journey and the role that music has played to help him recover and get back to himself. This is the final episode of the first series where we've been focusing on health and the role that music has played in recovery. And next month I'm going to start a new series focusing on travel and music and the symbiotic relationship between the two. Thank you for listening. Enjoy listening now to Ian Mok performing in his end-of-term concert at Harvard. Here he's playing in Beethoven's String Quartet, Opus 74, Movement 2.